Hello and welcome on this episode of Education Futures. I'm very, very happy to have Ksenia and Diana from the Fobizz team with us today. Laurent and I are so excited about this conversation because you ladies are really shaping up the future of education at the age of AI with Fobizz, and you're gonna tell us a bit more about what you do. You work a lot with teachers. You're preparing them for an education, an age of, an AI-driven education. So thank you so much for being our guests today. Maybe you want to start introducing yourselves.
Sure. So first of all, thanks for having us. We are honored to be on this podcast. So my name is Diana. I am the co-founder and CEO. My background actually is in computer science and education. So I studied both. And Svenia, we've met many years ago. I remember when I was still working only for AppCamps, my first company. It's a nonprofit, and it was all about computer science education. It's still out there. It's a small team. And while doing this, we had many more ideas. We talked to a lot of teachers, and this is how Fobizz was started in 2018, so 7 years ago. And I think we'll talk more about Fobizz later, but I would like to let Ksenia, my colleague, introduce herself now.
Thank you.
Thank you, Diana. Yeah, so my name is Ksenia, and I joined Fobizz a couple of years ago, and I'm heading up international expansion of Fobizz. I actually come from a different background. I worked in financial services for about 20 years in both US and Germany, but I was so impressed by Diana's mission and the vision for Fobizz that I decided that I absolutely had to join her.
I fully
That's
get
awesome.
that because Diana is such a driving force in the space in European edtech, and I fully understand why you would want to join the cause that she's serving.
Yeah, that's awesome. And maybe following on this introduction, you can give us some examples of concrete projects at Fobizz, maybe that already points towards the future you're imagining.
Okay, sure. So with Fobizz, we started, like I said, 7 years ago as a professional development platform. So teachers who did already great work, we asked them to record what they're doing, to share the knowledge and what they're doing through online trainings. This is how we got started. It went well from the beginning. And then when COVID hit, we had so many requests from schools and all over the place. And then it really took off. We've been there before, which is really great, but then it really took off. And the good thing is, people, like it was not only COVID, but they came back and they're even coming back more and more. So it's not that we only had the COVID effect. So it was professional development for educators. And then we added digital tools, in Europe and in Germany, we have the GDPR, and you cannot just use any tool in school, especially if you're working with students, with parents, and so on. So we started to build a GDPR compliant tool suite. We offered to teachers and educators. And then end of 2022, when ChatGPT came along, we started to offer AI tools as well. So this is pretty much how we developed. And we always try to be very close to the teachers, to educators. We talk to them every day. We want to know how we can help them, how we can support them. And that's pretty much what we try to do every day. And then besides what I just said, we have special programs. And I think I would like to hand over to Ksenia because we just started a new cohort of our AI literacy training. And this is actually an international program. So we do have it in Germany for German speaking, or like in DACH for German speaking teachers. But we also started to offer it internationally, which is really exciting. And I think Ksenia can tell you a little bit more about this.
Yes, absolutely. It's been really rewarding expanding from a German-speaking audience to a global audience. At this point, with this cohort, we have participants from over 60 different countries with all sorts of different backgrounds and teaching different subjects. School administrators are there as well. It's a really, really diverse, fun group, and we're just delighted about the exchange to come. In general, we've been offering this program for several years. As Diana said, first, it started out just in Germany, and now it's expanded. And this is a program that we offer for free for educators around the world because we think that AI literacy is such an important topic that it's not something that should be prohibitive or have barriers. So we want to make it accessible for everyone, and we run this multiple times a year in 2 languages.
Amazing. How many teachers take part, and what do you do concretely? What do you teach these teachers?
As far as taking part, I mean, we have thousands in our German program every year. We're still in the hundreds globally because we're not as well known on the English-speaking market, but that's changing, of course, with every passing month. As to what we focus on, we first focus on understanding about use of AI in education. What are the opportunities? What are the risks? Where can we go with this? We don't try to prescribe to everyone one specific formula. We want everyone to understand the basics. We also don't force anyone to use any specific tools. What we talk about is something that can be applied across the board. So that's where we start. We try to get this baseline knowledge so everyone has a good, solid foundation to jump off of. After that, we have some courses that we recommend. Some are mandatory, some are optional. We let people decide what best fits their interest. And then they also have to complete a project. And for the project, we do give them free access to our own tools. But that's just, a means to an end. At the end of the day, it's about the concepts and how they set it up using AI and using what they've learned throughout the course.
And that's exactly what we are interested at Education's Futures. We want to understand how technology is going to impact the life in schools, and teachers are a big part of that. And maybe you have an insight about what are the skills that teachers didn't need to have until now and need to have now, and maybe the opposite also. Is there some skills you think teachers needed to have until now, but now are going to be a bit obsolete or useless?
Well, I think it's not that it's only needed now, but I think it's needed more than ever. Is on the one hand, lifelong learning skills that everyone understands. We need to learn our whole life. If we look at what's happening right now, the things are developing so fast. The world is changing, and we just need to make sure that every teacher, every student, and anyone understands that we need to adapt to new situations. So that's the one thing, the lifelong learning and the adaptability to new situations. And I think this, has always been important, but it's probably more important today. And of course, with all the AI and the things that are happening, we need to make sure that people understand what's happening, that you have a lot of opportunities with when working with AI, but we also have the downsides. There are fake news. You can easily create them and spread them. And everyone needs to understand that you need to be more critical, that you need to double check if the news you see, especially if it's not from a news publisher, like in Germany, Tagesschau, where you would assume that it is, of course, double checked, but that you really need to be conscious with the information you see in the internet. And I think if we say that's something like media or news competency, I think this is more important than ever, but it has been important in the past as well.
That's super interesting because I feel like the skills you are talking about are not only needed for teachers, but like for students too.
Oh yeah, both, but absolutely, absolutely. And I think, totally. And not only for also for parents, for anyone,
And for us.
it's for us. Yeah. So we're living in a world that's changing quickly, and AI is everywhere, and we need to understand what's happening.
Absolutely. And when we look at the future, we would be very curious to know what a day in a teacher's life will look like in 15 years' time, if we had to really imagine the future, we know that AI is going to take a huge role in our lives and in the education of our students. So, what is your bet on the future? I know it's hard to predict the future, but what is your bet? How is it going to evolve in your perspective? You know teachers today in 2025, you work with them every day.
Yeah.
How will they work in 10, 15 years' time?
So I think this is a really hard question, especially looking back even 3 years ago, before all this ChatGPT came into our lives. So I can't really see one future, but the thing is, we have a podcast ourselves and we just had, I don't know if you know him, Jöran Mus-Mehrholz. He's a German educational scientist and he just published a book. It's called Schools in 2035, so in 10 years, and it's called Learning After AI. So, and what he does in his book, and I really like it, he comes up with 5 different school scenarios we could imagine, and they could be like going back very traditional and nothing digital in the school, up to like schools that are fully driven by technology, teachers are only AI robots and everything, like it could be either or. And I think on the other hand, if we look at our population today and maybe even more in the future, it is very diverse. And usually parents play a huge role in selecting schools for students. So I think there will not be one perfect school that fits everyone, but rather different schools, and hopefully we have more diverse schools so students and parents can choose the right schools for themselves. And so maybe some people would like to work more with technology and AI, and others maybe want to work less with it. And I think it should be okay in all directions, So for me, it's really hard to look into the future and to predict it, but I can. And what I also liked about the book and the 5 visionary schools Jöran came up with, you have all these positive aspects about the schools, but then on the other hand, you always have the things, maybe like some kind of schools, they are not unfair, they are only for a privileged group of people, and not everyone is able to work well in the schools, and you need to consider all of this, I think. So I think it's really hard to say this should be the future for schools because it's just too diverse. And and it's just like in general, it's hard to look into the future and to predict it, especially nowadays.
I know. It's the
Jumping,
toughest. I know.
jumping on this idea that just to jump on this idea that schools could look differently across the world, I would love to have your views, Ksenia, on do you think there are in different areas of the world different directions that are taken, or just everything is blurred now and everybody is just trying to figure out what to do?
No, there are certainly differences that we're seeing, but at the same time, some things remain the same. So we can see if we look at different areas of the world, as far as if we're looking at AI specifically and how AI is affecting education, if we just look at that portion of it. In some areas, you see a strong backing by the government and strong initiatives that are really pushing for it. Where in other areas, it's a bit more of a grounds up approach where you have some early adopters that are jumping on the bandwagon and then kind of raise it up to their schools and then push the states. And then, eventually, hopefully the countries will come around. I think probably in Europe, it's a little bit more ground up, this drive. You definitely see beacons. Whereas other parts of the world, we've seen huge initiatives come out of Singapore on country level. United Arab Emirates are pushing very hard and providing a lot of resources. US recently started voicing very clear opinions in that direction. I think even within those 3 examples, we see a vast difference between just setting a wish or direction versus actual funding tied to it, which we know, of course, is what is the difference between an idea and actually implementing it and being able to provide this to schools, you see a difference also in approach. Some are focused more on tools first, then literacy. Some are talking about literacy first, AI literacy, then tools. I'm not saying there's a right way or the wrong way, but there are certainly differences across the landscape. One thing that is 100% the same, regardless of where you are and whom you're speaking with, you always have teachers who are pro AI and really excited about it, educators who are really excited about using it, and others who are absolutely terrified of it. And within that, you always see the same patterns, and that is those who are terrified of it and don't want to use it and more resistant to it are the ones who've had the least exposure to it. So the percentage weights within these groups vary across the world. But I think at the end of the day, we're human beings, and it is human nature to fear the unknown. And I think in that sense, it just emphasizes the fact that we just need to create that baseline of education of AI literacy in order for everyone to form an educated opinion, because you don't know what you don't know at the end of the day.
Absolutely. Are you also teaching at Fobizz? Are you also teaching and helping teachers to prepare courses or their classes with these tools, or is it just pure AI literacy? What is AI? What is an algorithm? How can I navigate it correctly while keeping a critical mind?
We are very practical in our approach. We do have courses that give you that foundation, but we always give you examples of how you can literally take this new knowledge and bring it into your classroom tomorrow. You know, we have courses that are very subject specific for AI or non-AI, and we have courses that are more broad. The catalog is really large, so you have a lot to choose from. But, you know, teaching AI in a primary school or elementary school is going to need a different approach than teaching AI in upper classes or using it in your course. And of course, we discuss that in various courses that are offered on our platform. It is important to acknowledge, you know, it's not one size fits all.
And to add on this, we also actually do have prepared course material for teachers that they can use and adapt, and we have it as open educational resources. So they can look through our catalog and then they find things and then they can decide if they like it or not and if they want to adapt it. And here is also where app camps comes into play again, because with app camps we're doing a lot of teaching material. So we started with computer science, and of course AI is not only computer science, but it's very connected to computer science on the technical part, but it also has a lot of like ethical and other aspects to it. So we are also developing actually AI literacy materials for teachers that they can use ready-made in the classroom or adapt to their needs. And I think this whole package, so like Ksenia said, we start with the foundation, have some basic trainings. We have the literacy trainings that are like running for several weeks, which are really great because they can really dive deep into the topic and develop their own teaching material and then share it with others. You know, I think this is also really important to learn from and with each other on this journey, you know, because it's a learning journey for all of us. And so we try to support teachers on every aspect, like on the learning side for them, but also on the teaching side if they want it and if they're interested.
Thank you. And I just want to, sorry, Laurent, I know you have a question, but I just want to add
I have a
that.
lot.
Yeah, I know. Me too. I just want to add that Fobizz is currently selling these programs to governments, right? And that's quite exceptional in the world of education technology. It's quite hard, especially in Europe, to sell directly to governments or to states, so that teachers do not have to pay a single euro or dollar from their own pocket. And so I'm quite impressed with that, actually, ladies. And I wanted to say congrats, because what you're doing is really accessible to the many, accessible to all the teachers in a particular state that you're working in.
Yeah, and I think this is an important aspect because, you know, we see that like some teachers are still paying it out of their own pocket, and it's they're not using it for fun, they're using it for their work. It should be something they are provided with. But then, like you said, we are selling to states and to ministries, but we are also selling to schools directly. So I think what I wish for is to give schools more freedom and power to decide what they need, and so we are actually like selling on different levels. And I mean, we know it every day. It's extremely hard, like the target group we chose, like teachers and educators and schools and ministries of education. It's not easy, but it's very rewarding on the other hand. We get like, we internally call them love letters every day from our users, because they're so thankful to have the support and to have someone, sometimes like they feel like they have someone they can rely on, that they can actually call us if they have questions. And if our line is busy, they will get like a call, like we will call them back and everything. And oftentimes, they don't know this, they don't have the experience. And we just want to make sure that they feel good, that they feel confident, and that they are, that they feel safe using AI and other technologies in the classroom.
We're probably a good example of a human-centric approach to AI. We use AI in all our products, but in customer support, we want to make sure you can reach a person and talk to a human being, because at the end of the day, we know how busy educators are. We know how precious their time is. We want them, when they give us a call, they're talking to a person, and if the line is busy, a person will call them back.
Beautiful.
That leads towards a big thing with AI. You mentioned ethics. I think all governments are also trying to navigate what is the right way to use AI in classrooms. Obviously, in Europe, we have the AI Act, but on top of that, everybody has to invent an ethics. So what does it mean? Like, do you have some clues about what are the ethical ways of using AI as an educator?
I think there are, a lot of states and schools, they have their rules and boundaries, their guardrails. And I think this is really important, that everyone knows what they're supposed to do, what they're not supposed to do. And of course, human in the loop, you cannot use AI to do the grading for a student, but you can maybe use it to help prepare it, but you're not allowed to use it for the final grading and stuff like this. And I think a lot is probably common sense, what we did in the past and what we should also do in the future. But I think it's very important to have the conversation and to have those guidelines and rules within every school, and to talk about how are we using AI, what is okay, what is not okay, and then make sure to involve especially students into the discussion, and the educators, the parents, to be really transparent about it, and also see this as an opportunity to learn together. I think this is also really important. Yeah.
You mentioned human in the loop. You also say transparency. You say you don't teach a very specific AI tool, but do you also think that some tools are more ethical than others? I don't know, some can be more biased, or do you think choosing the right tool is also part of the ethical journey of a teacher?
Absolutely. And of course, we are not teaching specific tools. We do offer our own AI tools, of course, and they are GDPR compliant. We try to use as few data as needed, to make sure, also to make sure teachers understand not to put in personal information. We have these warnings that come up if they do, and they didn't know about it. So I think there are different tools out there, and I think everyone knows that you're not supposed to use, for example, ChatGPT in the classroom with your students. At least in Germany and Europe, I think it's not possible due to GDPR and also age restrictions. But there are tools like ours that make sure that no personal data is being sent. Every prompt is just only coming from Fobizz and never from Diana or from the user. We are not sending meta information with the prompt. And I think there's a lot you can do today already to make sure to have a safe environment for educators and students. But it always has to go along with the trainings and with the information, which is actually ongoing. Everything is developing so fast. So I think it's really important to make sure to have the whole school community involved in the process, to talk about it, to make sure to have time to learn about it, to try it out, to do experiments and everything. And this is also what we're trying to do. So not only sell the tool, but sell the whole package about AI, and that they know they can also book us for workshops for their schools, for example. And this is, I think it's important to see this as something bigger than only a tool.
Absolutely. If you were to be called to basically advise policymakers and school leaders on that transition to an AI-driven education model in 10 years' time, if we imagine that AI is gonna be much more present in our lives, what would the top priorities be? Like, what would you say are the top priorities for policymakers and school leaders to prepare for this future? What would you tell them?
So I think we need to start with AI literacy, making sure everyone has a basic knowledge, has the opportunity to try it out. Of course, they need tools they can use. I think we also need to make sure to involve the whole school community, to give them more freedom. I think, Europe is big and the world is even bigger. There are so many different types of schools and everything. But I think we have still a lot of maybe too many subjects, and it's just so full, the curriculum. So maybe we need to make space for more project-based learning, more new topics that can, of course, be combined with the subjects and the expert knowledge. That's still very important. But I think it could be a little bit more flexible on the one hand. And then I think what I would really wish for is that the school principals and the schools and the districts, they know best what's important for their schools, because they work with the students and with the teachers every day, and that they are more in responsibility and power, and they have more budget to decide what they actually need and how they spend the money.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think a lot of tools are offering the opportunity for teachers to be more efficient if teachers are trained by you and now use AI and are more efficient. Maybe they are going to spend less time preparing their courses, spending less time evaluating students. Like, how should we use this time that the teachers are earning by being more efficient? Should they spend more hours inside the classrooms with the students? How do we, as a society, how do we leverage this efficiency that we are earning with AI?
Mm-hmm. So I think everyone currently is talking about AI making schools more efficient and everything. I think what we really need is to have empirical studies that show, what's actually where and how AI can help save time and make teachers and professionals and everyone more efficient. That's on the one hand, because right now, you need to invest time to learn, and probably so one aspect, if we actually I believe that we can make schools and teachers more efficient through AI, but so far it's not. It's it's not enough proven, I would say. So, but of course we see, and we got a lot of feedback that teachers feel that AI can help them in many ways. And so what I would wish for, on the one hand, we see that a lot of teachers are currently overworked. So maybe they have more freedom, more space, also to work together with colleagues, to learn for themselves, and of course to have more time to actually work with the students, to support individual students who might need more support. And I think we all need to learn and see how this develops. But so yeah. These are just my ideas how we could use extra time if we actually have it. Right now, since we're still in the beginning, I don't see that there's. I don't think a lot of teachers say, "Yay, I'm using AI. I have so much free time." I don't see it yet.
Not yet, for sure. Ksenia, you wanted to add something?
I just wanted to kind of echo what Diana was saying. I think that right now teachers are globally so overworked and schools are so understaffed that talking about this extra free time is kind of a pipe dream at this stage. If we look at, just most UNESCO study alone said that by 2030, we need to add 44 million more teachers in order to just meet primary and secondary educational needs. That shows us the gap that we have right now. And if AI helps us close that gap by maybe giving teachers just room to breathe, that would be, I think, step one. And then I think, yes, step two, of course, allowing them to focus on whatever they feel is best for their students and, focusing on why they entered the teaching profession in the first place, which is probably better outcomes, shaping young minds and so on.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We hear a lot of talk around AI and the future of jobs, employments that jobs that might disappear because they might be automized by AI. And so this is on my mind a lot at the moment. I'm reading a book about the topic right now, and I would love to have your perspective on what we should teach to kids. Like, what should we teach them in schools? What should they learn? And for what purpose? Because if we're going to a world where people are going to be less and less employed because AI is taking their jobs, what should they study for? Like, I'm really thinking about the topic a lot at the moment, and I would love to hear your opinion on that. What should they study, and maybe, are there some key skills that they need to learn in school to prepare them for that uncertainty?
So I'm not an expert in this area, of course. I can only share my own thoughts on this. And I, like what I said earlier, is like lifelong learning is really important. Adaptability. You said we are living in a very insecure world, how to deal with insecurity. And then, a lot of things, you said they can be automated, and there are actually those websites where you can put in a job and then you see how much can already be automated today. It gives you an idea, and a lot of things that are repeating itself, they can be easily automated. And, one example is software engineers, programmers, they are suddenly facing the situation that a lot of what they were like the experts in, they were like very, still are, the very high salaries, really hard to find them, to hire them. And all of a sudden they have tools, and you like, especially if you are junior programmer or engineer, AI can probably do a lot, And so what I'm worrying about a little bit is how we deal with the situation from graduates of, let's say, universities, or they did like this work internship thing, the dual thing in Germany, and then they enter their first job. They're a junior, and usually as a junior you need to learn, you need to do the basic things. But maybe AI is better and, of course, cheaper. So how do we deal with this? Because in order to become an expert, you need to be a junior first, And I think, especially if you look at some numbers, for college graduates, it's harder to find a job already. So I think we really need to think about how we deal with this. And of course, everyone wants to only hire the really good experts and everything, but that's not possible. So we need to make sure that everyone has a fair chance to learn, to develop. And I think these are the things we need to prepare students for. And yeah, so if we, and we are also hiring people, and for me, it's like mindset and motivation and self-study. And I think these are really important aspects today for the workforce.
Laurent, I saw you laugh. Like, what are your thoughts?
No, I totally agree with that. It's just that I consider myself as a junior developer, and indeed I feel my life has changed. But actually I also feel that I'm learning a lot by using AI, because I try to have this ethics of not validating anything an AI is doing that I don't understand, and so I need to understand what Cloud Code is actually doing in my job. So that's why I was listening. What I would like to change a bit is that we and you say that we are going to earn in efficiency. It's going to be cheaper to do things, but actually a lot of schools can see AI as an additional cost on top of a lot of already existing costs. And what I personally see, but I don't know if you share this view, is that for now, the schools that are using AI are mostly rich schools, advanced schools, or like I don't see low income area schools. I don't say that there's no teacher in those areas taking AI for their jobs, but I think it's harder for those schools to be able to include AI in their teaching because they have a lot of other challenges. Do you have ideas about how we can make AI available for everyone and not just for the richest?
So I think this is why we need to make sure that states, for example, provide AI to schools and teachers and potentially students, and that it's seen as a necessity for everyone. And it should definitely not be the case that, let's say, rich parents buy the good AI tools with that are GDPR compliant for their students so they can learn and benefit from it. So I think this is actually one challenge we face, to make sure that it is distributed evenly to everyone. Everyone has the opportunity to learn about it, to use it. I don't have a solution. Of course, I only say we need to make sure that schools and states have the money to offer it and to provide it, because we need it. There's no way around.
Yeah. Absolutely. I don't see a way around. I'm trying also for this podcast to invite people who are like 100% against AI adoption in schools. And there are some, and very, very clever people. So I would love to invite them, have their point of view. They say it's possible to not use it, or to choose to not use it in schools. But when I see how fast things go, I would prefer the option where we're all prepared for it, like and that we all understand what's at stake. That we all, teachers, students alike, also understand the risks and the benefits of it. So I would naturally always prefer that solution than to say we're not using it and we ban it, and but it's also a trend in some parts of the world.
But the thing is, I mean, at least I know, of course, the German numbers the best, because we have different studies here and we are very involved in the community. But students are using it. If you teach it or if you don't teach it, if you ban it in schools, they're still using it. And we all, we know about great benefits, but there are so many risks that come with using AI. and banning it and ignoring it and telling we are not, that's just not the right way. I mean, often they say, okay, we can talk about it, but we cannot use it. But that's on a very theoretical level. So, I think it's part of our life now, if we want it or not. But there's no, there won't ever be a world without AI anymore, if we ban it or not. There's
More than that, as Diana said, we know the students are using it outside of school, in school, on their personal devices. It's integrated into various games. It's integrated into social media. We can't get away from it. But bringing it into the school allows us to kind of control the conversation, or let's say pivot and shape the conversation, maybe preparing the students with the knowledge to not just be consumers of AI, but actually future creators and engineers. And with that, you're empowering them and giving them extra skills for this ever-changing world that we're in right now.
And just one more thing to add, some kids are lucky. They have parents, they use AI with them, they talk about it, but not everyone has the opportunity to talk about it with the parents and the families. And again, we have this we call it in Germany, I don't know the English, it's scissor, we have that's widening, and
the gap is widening.
Yeah, the gap is widening. And that's why I believe we need to make sure it is talked about and it is used in schools, of course, in a safe and secure way.
Absolutely. Fully aligned with that. All right, Laurent, you want to ask a last question, maybe?
If there is I just want first to second everything you are saying. I actually think that a lot of teachers are using AI because their students are using AI. What we see in high school and in higher education is there are a lot of numbers, 90% of students are using AI at home, and only I think it has evolved, but I have this 30% of teachers using it for their professional job. And when you know that your students are using it, you want to be at the right page, right? You don't want to be late on students. And so maybe that's that the question I will be the most interested with as a last question are, what is the first, when you are teaching teachers in your training, what is the best thing they learn? After a few lessons, I don't know if it's towards lessons, but what is the one thing they say, oh, I didn't know that about AI, and now I'm so happy that I've learned that with you.
Let me think real quick. Maybe Ksenia, you can also, and you're also working with a lot of teachers. So one thing I sometimes experience, if I sit down with teachers, we look at it together, and they are just really surprised by the output and the quality they get with a simple prompt, And I think this is, if you're seeing this for the first time, maybe you remember when you first worked with AI, I was wow, this is next level and this can really help. Of course, I mean, you can improve so much if you learn about prompting, if you give more context, there's a lot more you can do. But I think only this is really something that surprises them. And then, that makes them curious, and then they want to learn more, and then they're into it, and you just need to go the first step and have some kind of security, that you are safe, that it's okay to use. And of course, you always need to know. And then we always put this on our, whenever you enter something, you tell them, you need to double check. It can come up with wrong facts. Be aware of biases and stereotypes and everything. This is also part of the learning curve. But I think it's important to be curious, to be open to it. And when you see what it can actually do for you, the thing is, teachers, they know exactly what they need to do, and they become creative, and they come up with the best use cases.
Yeah, totally agree. And I, as you say, the first step is not that hard to make.
Ksenia, you wanted to add something?
I think the biggest thing that we've seen is just the change in their attitude towards the whole topic and also their level of confidence. More than that, we've been working for years with the University of Cologne, who's been doing a study on the participants in our certification training or in our AI literacy training. And the study has also shown that there's this drastic change and in their attitudes and just, outlook on this whole topic. So it just emphasizes the fact that as long as we're educating everyone, as long as we're giving everyone the means to succeed, we can really encourage a positive conversation around this, a constructive way to move forward. We know that AI is not perfect, but not many things are. But this gives us all the tools to have a constructive conversation to do the most with it in the future.
Thank you for sharing that. Wonderful that you're doing this study. And maybe to close this episode, we would love to ask you, who should we invite? Who should be our next guest? Do you have anyone in mind who is thinking about the future of education, who is working towards, finding ways to integrate AI in a meaningful way? Anyone you have in mind?
Okay, so I talked about him earlier about his book. So I think Jöran Mus-Mehrholz, he's great. It's not only about technology and AI, of course, but I think he's really great. And then in the US, I know Amanda Bickerstaff. She's doing a lot of great work, especially in the training area. And so I think these could be two great guests. Maybe, Ksenia, you have someone else in mind?
Sure. I think, if you want a look at AI or conversation about AI in education with both discussing, the positives and the negatives and what to be aware of, I've had really interesting conversations with Ken Shelton, who also has a book, The Promises and Perils of AI in Education. So I would recommend talking to him. I think his views are really interesting and definitely something that requires a broader, deeper look at.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for these recommendations. We're gonna look into them and invite them on your behalf, ladies. Thank you so much. And thank you so much for being our guests today. It was a pleasure talking to you about such an important topic. So thank you for taking the time.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.